today about King David. He's an interesting character study, isn't he? He was called a man after God's own heart, which is pretty cool. That'd be neat to be called that. But he had some serious issues in his life. Look at him and Bathsheba. He's up on his castle looking down, watching this woman bathe. He's attracted to her, has her come over to his palace. She ends up pregnant, sends her back home. To cover this all up, what does he do? He has her husband come back from battle, hoping her husband would go to her. When he doesn't, what does he do? He has him killed so that they could lie about it and not be caught. That's pretty amazing. And that's just one issue in his life. Look at his kids. They had a lot of problems and a lot of family issues. But he was called a man after God's own heart. God himself called him that. What was it about David that gave him that type of a heart? And I think a lot of that has to do with that he was a humble man. I want to look at some of the things that he could have been proud about. I mean, he had a lot of accomplishments in his life. He did a lot of things that could have led him to be very prideful. He defeated Goliath. Not a bad accomplishment to start with. Conquered Jerusalem, made that the capital of Israel. He expanded Israel's borders to the greatest extent that they ever were at. He set up the golden age of Israel. He wrote many of the Psalms. God promised him that the Messiah would come through his lineage. He had a lot of things he could be proud of, didn't he? But yet, he wrote the following in 2 Samuel chapter 22, verses 1 through 7. And David spoke the words of this song to the Lord in the day that the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. He said, "The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my rock, in whom I take refuge. My shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold and my refuge. My Savior, you save me from violence. I call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemies. For the waves of death encompass me, the torch of destruction overwhelmed me. The cords of Sheol surrounded me. The snares of death confronted me. In my distress I called upon the Lord. Yes, I cried to my God, and from his temple he heard my voice, and my cry for help came into his ears." Despite all the great things David did, he wrote this, that all of it was because God was his protector. God was his deliverer. It all happened because of God's help in his life. He took credit for none of it. He remained humble. And I think that's a big part of why he was called a man after God's own heart. Because the Bible warns us about pride over and over again, doesn't it? It's a problem. It leads to many issues. We talked about these already briefly. It leads to false beliefs and a lack of knowledge. It leads to strained relationships, and it leads to a focus on self. And we're going to look at these three issues today, starting with how it leads to false beliefs and a lack of knowledge. I want to read an article for you. It's going to give 6 different things that you may not have known, kind of weird facts. The first one: fish form orderly queues in emergencies. When evacuating through narrow spaces in sketchy situations, schools of neon tetra fish queue so they don't collide or clog up the line. Scientists interpreted this behavior as showing that fish can respect social rules even in emergency situations, unlike us humans. The next fact: it is surprisingly easy to escape quicksand. Quicksand's density is higher than that of the human body, making it impossible to sink completely. To escape quicksand, sit or lie back, Try to keep your arms up and out of the quicksand and slowly wiggle your legs side to side and back and forth. The next one, Lego bricks withstand compression better than concrete. An ordinary plastic Lego block is able to support the weight of 375,000 of a bricks before it fails. This theoretically will let you build a tower nearing 3.5 kilometers in height. Scaling this up to house-sized bricks, however, would cost far too much. A lightning bolt is 5 times harder than the surface of the sun. The charge carried by a bolt of lightning is so intense that it has a temperature of 30,000 degrees Celsius. Dogs tilt their head when you speak to them to better pinpoint familiar sounds. Your dog is tilting its head when you speak to it to pinpoint where noises are coming from more quickly. This is done to listen out more accurately for familiar words such as walkies and helps them better understand the tone of your voice. If a dog doesn't tilt its head that often, as those with shorter muzzles might, it's because it relies less on sound and more on sight. And finally, you inhale 50 potential harmful bacteria every time you breathe. Thankfully, your immune system is working hard all the time, so virtually all these are promptly destroyed without you feeling a thing. Now, I have no idea if any of this is true, to tell you the truth. Just an article, it says it's true. It could be, who knows. Let's say we researched it, though, and found out that these things are true. We'd probably accept it, wouldn't we? I mean, our pride's not wrapped up in any of these things. It's just random facts that probably don't affect us. We'd go, okay, it's true. Wouldn't be an issue, most likely. But what if we were a scientist, and we worked our whole life on the idea and putting our reputation on the line that when we breathe in, there's nothing harmful in it, that the air is safe. That's been what we've been writing books about for the last 30 years. That's what we've been telling people. That's where our reputation is. And then we research that last fact about 50 harmful bacteria. We look at the research and realize, you know what? They're right. Now, do we change what we believe? Depends how well we handle pride, doesn't it? If we're a proud person, we're not going to accept that. We're going to come up with any reason to reject that belief, aren't we? Because we don't want to put our pride on the line. We don't want people to realize that what we've been saying for so long has been wrong. But if we don't struggle with pride, we will admit it. We'll go, yeah, that's good new research, and I was wrong. It depends on how well we handle pride. And this can be especially true in religion settings, can it? Pride can really get involved here. I think one of the easiest examples is baptism. I mean, you read the Bible, baptism is everywhere. Every time someone comes to Christ, the first thing that happens is they are baptized. It is easy to understand. It is obvious. It's hard to argue against it. Yet we find people who don't believe baptism is necessary, or even think people should be baptized. Why is that? Well, whoever brought them to Christ taught them they didn't need to be baptized. And they were raised in that tradition or told that tradition for years upon years. And they respect the person who taught them that. Their pride gets involved. They're going, well, no, this is how I've always been taught. This is how it must be. So they refuse to accept it. Pride can lead us to having wrong beliefs. I had a discussion one time, Bible study group going on, and we all had this idea that the Bible said something, and there was a passage that said it. Now, I don't remember what this was. It was a long time ago. What it was isn't important. But we were all convinced, everybody in that Bible study group, that the Bible said this, and there was a passage that said it. We started looking. We couldn't find it. We looked for a while. Finally, we said, okay, we're going to get together again in a couple of weeks. We're going to go off. We're going to research it. We went off. We researched it. Nobody could find it. And this is what was interesting. That group said, well, we know it has to be true. It has to be there. I'm going, no, it doesn't. In fact, the evidence is pointing to the fact it's not there. None of us found it. It may be true. We may believe it's true, but we can't teach it as the truth. It's not biblical. It's not there. We have to accept that. It's hard for us to change our thinking on things religious sometimes, isn't it? When our pride gets involved. We've always believed it. We always thought it. It must be true. Well, no, not necessarily. The last few times I've spoke, I brought up the idea of the Bible and the Bible only. It's immensely important to keep that the focus of our faith. You see, pride can keep us from accepting the truth and lead us to false beliefs and a lack of knowledge. Pride can also lead to strained relationships through vanity and bragging, hypocrisy and lying, slander and fault-finding, and anger. I want to start off by reading an article. This is a lady who recognized that pride was a problem in her relationships. I had always thought of myself as an apologizer. I don't know how many times I had been told by my mother growing up, tell your sister you're sorry, apologize to your brother. And I had always said the words, even if I had not always meant them. But I've also been the perfect child in our family of 6 kids, the one where mom would say, why can't you be more like your sister and point to me? Because I worked so hard at doing the right thing, I ended up apologizing a lot less than my always in trouble older brother and my independent and who cares younger sister. Yes, I grew up thinking I was related to Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way. And when I grew older and time passed, I realized that my mom was very prideful. I don't ever remember her apologizing, and I had adopted more of her attitude than was good for me. And as I thought over the next months and even years about why it was so hard for me to apologize, to admit I was wrong, I came back to the same thing. My pride was tripping me up, causing me to stumble, and keeping me from confessing. Pride of wanting to be right. Pride of wanting to defend my actions. After all, my reasons were good. Pride of wanting to appear almost perfect. Pride of what others would think. Pride of expressing the truth to myself and others. Pride of appearing weak. Pride of admitting fault. My pride was a stumbling block and affected my relationships. Because one thing pride likes to do is lie. Pride lies all sorts of convincing lies. Lies that keep us from the truth, from pursuing love, from abundant grace, from growth and change, from deeper relationships. Pride is supposed to keep us from pain, but it doesn't. Pride weaves elaborate lies that we tend to believe. Lies that in the end extract harsher consequences because of the tangle of deceit we create. Some of the lies that pride brings that we believe that hinder our relationship are the following. Others won't like us or love us if they knew the truth. Hide, never tell, it is safer. Forgiveness is never free. We must work to earn our forgiveness. Confessing makes us indebted to the person. Asking forgiveness is admitting guilt and a sign of weakness. Come on, technically we are not guilty. Look for a loophole. Don't admit guilt unless you are 100% wrong. 96% or even 5% does not count. We may not be forgiven, so why bother? The other person messed up too. Let them confess first. Forgiveness is overrated. Confessing may ruin us. These lies have no truth in them. Satan wants us to believe these lies because then we will walk in fear and not in the light of forgiveness. Because then we will walk in the same old rut and not newness and change. Because it will cut us off from community and help. Because we are consumed with guilt and shame, our eyes remain focused on ourselves, not on a God who redeems us, loves us, and pours abundant grace on our souls. Pride is one of the main culprits that hinders our relationship with others. It is our pride that causes us to defend our actions, justify and explain why we are in the right, and turn blame and blame them for their wrongdoing. Pride separates us from others. It causes us to lie to them and ourselves. It keeps us from doing the right thing in the relationship. It stops us from pursuing reconciliation, compromise, and forgiveness. Pride holds on to our pain, and then we, in turn, lash out in pain. Often we know we are wrong, but it is our pride that keeps us from doing the right thing. Let's look at these things in more detail, starting with vanity and bragging. Pride hurts our relationships in this way, in two ways, through vanity and bragging. The first way is we won't admit we are wrong, will we, if we're suffering in this way? And it may not seem like that's hurting our relationships when we don't admit we're wrong. It may be for a while it's okay. The person we're in a relationship with may just deal with it. But over time, people are going to get tired of being in a relationship with us if we never admit we're wrong, if we're always thinking we are in the right. It can lead to resentment, and it will lead to frustration. Secondly, we come to think that what we believe should be believed by everybody, just because we have researched it and come to the conclusion. For example, let's say we researched nonprofits and we decided the best nonprofit in the world was supporting whales, or whatever that might be. And then we can go, hey, everybody should support whales. This should be everybody's goal in life because we've researched it. It's the best, we know. And we'll go around and we'll tell everybody, you have to do this. You have to support the whales. Or maybe we found the best way to swim. We did some research. We did swimming. We practiced different types of strokes. And we go, okay, I found the best way to swim. Now everybody should swim in that way. And we'll go around, we'll preach this to everybody. Got to swim this way. Got to swim this way. It's got to be like this. And the issue here is people have different priorities, don't they? You know, you researched it and you came up with the best way to swim or the best organization to support based on your priorities. And what you don't get sometimes when you're struggling with pride and vanity and bragging is that people have different priorities, and their priorities might lead to a different conclusion. And if we don't get past this, if we continue on, we will continue to nag people to take on these things that we have decided personally are best for us, and to do things the way we have personally decided we should do things. That will lead to people withdrawing from us, not wanting to be in contact with us. It will lead to a lack of communication. Let's look next at hypocrisy and lying. And let's start by looking at hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is basically when there's a different set of rules for you than everybody else. In other words, you go, okay, it's okay for me to do this, but it's not okay for you to do this. Hypocrisy. And I want to look at an example here of King Saul, 1 Samuel chapter 13, verses 7 through 14. Also, some of the Hebrews crossed the Jordan into the land of Gad and Gilead. But as for Saul, he was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. Now he waited 7 days, according to the appointed time set by Samuel. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattering from him. So Saul said, "Bring to me the burnt offering and the peace offering." And he offered the burnt offering. As soon as he finished offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came. And Saul went out to meet him and to greet him. But Samuel said, "What have you done?" And Saul said, "Because I saw the people were scattering from me, and that you did not come within the appointed days, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash, therefore I said, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not asked for the favor of the Lord. So I forced myself and offered the burnt offering." Samuel said to Saul, "You have acted foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For now the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom shall not endure. The Lord has sought out for himself a man after his own heart, and the Lord has appointed him as ruler over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord has commanded you. Saul saw that he was being abandoned. His people were leaving him. And his pride would not let that happen. It led to him committing a sin. And he rationalized it. If anybody else offered those burnt offerings, he would have said, that is wrong, that's a sin, you can't do it. But he rationalized it and said, it's okay for me to do it. Hypocrisy, right? If anybody else did it, Saul would have complained. But Saul thought it was okay for him to do it. And that hypocrisy strained his relationship between him and Samuel and between him and God. Pride also leads to lying. When we're prideful, we want everybody to think we're perfect, don't we? And of course, we're not perfect, are we? And so we lie about it to make people think we're perfect. And once again, King Saul has a good example of this. King Saul has many examples of problems, at least today. We're going to go 2 more chapters forward. 1 Samuel chapter 15, 9 through 23. But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep, the oxen, the fatlings, and the lambs, all that was good, and were not willing to destroy them utterly. But everything despised and worthless, that they utterly destroyed. Then the word of the Lord came to Samuel, saying, I regret that I have made Saul king, for he has turned back from following me, and has not carried out my commands. And Samuel was distressed, and cried out to the Lord all night. Samuel rose early in the morning to meet Saul. And it was told Samuel, saying, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set up a monument for himself, then turned and proceeded on down to Gilgal. Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed are you of the Lord. I have carried out the command of the Lord. But Samuel said, What then is this bleating of sheep in my ears, and the lowing of oxen, which I hear? Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and the oxen to sacrifice to the Lord your God. But the rest we have utterly destroyed. Then Samuel said to Saul, Wait, and let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night. And he said to him, Speak. Samuel said, It is true, though you were little in your own eyes, you were made the head of the tribes of Israel, and the Lord anointed you king over Israel. And the Lord sent you on a mission and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are exterminated. Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord, but rushed upon the spoil and did what was evil in the sight of the Lord? Then Saul said to Samuel, I did obey the voice of the Lord, and went on the mission on which the Lord sent me, and have brought back Agag, the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took some of the spoil, sheep and oxen, and the choicest of the things devoted to destruction, to sacrifice to the Lord your God at Gilgal. Samuel said, Has the Lord as much delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed than the fat of rams. For rebellion is in the sin of divination, and insubordination is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you from being king. Saul lied here. He said he carried out the command of the Lord, knowing full well he did not. He knew they brought back stuff that was supposed to be destroyed. He could have went and had those things destroyed that the people brought back. It's not hard to find a bunch of sheep bleeding and cows and oxen, grazing and making noise. You can chase those down and take care of them. But he didn't. He knew he did not keep the command, and he lied to Samuel about it. And what did that do? It hurt his relationship again with Samuel and again with God. Let's look next at slander and fault finding. Pride can lead to these things too. Garden of Eden is a great example of the blame game, isn't it? The Lord looking to Adam, where are you? Adam says back, I'm hiding because I'm naked. God goes, well, did you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? They're pretty well caught at this point, right? Don't worry, Adam's got this figured out. He doesn't just blame, he double blames. He says, well, it's the woman that you gave me that caused me to eat. So he blames it on God and he blames it on Eve. If you always blame multiple people, I guess. If one doesn't stick, maybe the other one will. Of course, the blame doesn't stop there. Eve goes, no, it's not my fault. Satan deceived me. It was the serpent that deceived me. Nobody wants to admit they were wrong. Pride will lead us to blaming other people. I mean, why do people slander people and say bad things about people? Because they want somebody to think they're better than that other person, don't they? And it's easier to tear somebody down than to do well and build yourself up. We shouldn't even be trying to be better than the people around us. That's a wrong goal to begin with. And pride will lead us to want to be better and be looked at as better than the people around us. You want to destroy a relationship? Turn it into a relationship that is adversarial, always competing, always trying to be better than each other. The teamwork will come to an end because, well, if you're trying to be better than somebody, you can't work with them on a team. And if we can't work together as Christians, the Great Commission is not going to move forward very well, is it? Because we're not working together. Evangelism is going to slow down. Discipleship and becoming more like Christ is going to slow down. And next I want to take a look at anger. See, pride can lead to anger because pride tells you that you should get what you want all the time because you're more important than the people around you. And when you don't get what you want, and that will happen, we all know, you're going to get upset about it. Anger could come from that. We'll look at this in a little bit more later on. But the point here is that pride and that sense that you should get everything can lead to anger. And anger can destroy even the closest of relationships. I want to read a small article here talking about a counselor who did marriage counseling. During my 30 years of working with couples in distressed marriages, I would say that anger is among the top, most prevalent issue that couples face in their marriage. About 1/3 of clients are dealing with anger in their relationships. I think most counselors would agree that anger is one of the most prevalent contributors to the demise of our marital relationships today. And yet anger is natural, God-given emotion. It's completely normal and healthy to feel angry from time to time in response to certain situations. Everyone experiences anger to some degree or another. Anger itself is not the problem per se. It's the intensity of your anger. It can range from mere annoyance to extreme rage. The problem is failing to manage your anger effectively. Countless spouses have sat in my office and told me how their anger or their spouse's anger was the biggest problem in their marriage. Anger can destroy the closest of relationships. Nobody wants to live long-term with somebody who is always angry, always blowing up. It will destroy relationships over time. Pride, in general, as we just discussed, will hurt our relationships. It will strain them. It will cause problems in our relationships with others. This next look on how pride can lead to a focus on self and us thinking that the world revolves around us. Us having a sense of entitlement. It can lead to envy and to greed. A lot of times people who struggle with pride will get this sense that everything revolves around them. It's a lot like kids. You ever notice kids, especially smaller kids, or sometimes you'll see this light go on like they went, oh wow, my parents were kids once. Like they actually went through some of the things I go through. Kids sometimes don't recognize that parents, we went to school. We struggled with good grades and bad grades. We struggled with failed relationships and successful relationships. We struggled with being bullied, or maybe we struggled with learning not to be a bully. Whatever it may be, we all went through these things. And sometimes kids, it's like their parents didn't exist before them, right? And on an extreme scale, I've seen some kids they think their parents go into suspended animation when they leave the room. Kind of like, your parents still are alive and they're still doing things even though you're not with them. Kids could get very focused on self, can't they? Like, nothing's happening any place in the world, just what's happening around me right now. With kids, that's cute sometimes. Not so cute when it's an adult struggling with pride that has that same issue. See, pride can lead to that sense of entitlement. The sense that they should be the priority. Everything's about how it affects them. And when things don't happen the way they want it to happen, they start to envy. Someone got something that they wanted, that they felt they deserved, and they envy that person. They want what that person has because of their pride. And they do that instead of rejoicing with them. The Bible tells us to rejoice with those who rejoice. But instead of doing that, when we suffer with pride, we grumble about it. We get upset about it. And we focus all our attention on what we perceive to be an injustice, that we didn't get it. And of course, focus on self can lead to greed. Because we deserve to have it all. We're going to use it all better than the person next to us, right? Because, we're better than the person next to us. That's what pride tells us. That gets the focus on us. We should have it all because we will do things better than the person next to us. I want to conclude today. We should all want to be a person after God's own heart, just like David was. If we're Christians, that should be one of our goals, shouldn't it? To be like Christ, to be a man after God's own heart. And it starts with giving up our pride. We see that was a big thing with David, was his humility. Are we willing to change our beliefs when given a good reason to? Are we willing to conform our beliefs to what the Bible teaches as far as morality and beliefs found there? Are we willing to show humility in our relationships so that they can improve and not be strained? Are we willing to put others before ourselves and put their needs before ours? Now, this is not easy. I realize I'm not asking a simple thing to do here. But David was able to do it. And he had much more reason to be proud than we do. Remember all the things we went through that he did in his life. But yet he remained humble. God can change our hearts. God can help remove pride from our life. He can give us a heart like his. He can give us a life that will make a difference. But it starts by getting the pride out. And that's my challenge to us today as we leave today. Look at our lives. See where we're struggling with pride and get it out of our lives. Remove it now before it can do any more harm.